Today, Apple controls a $3 trillion empire. With over 2.5 billion active devices currently in use, the company generates annual revenues that surpass the entire economic output of nations like France. This line chart tracks Apple's stock price over time. If we look at the data from 1996, the value drops to $14 a share. Analysts at the time issued a bleak forecast. The company had 90 days before total bankruptcy. The cause of this financial hemorrhage is visible in the inventory data. At that moment, Apple was pouring cash into over 350 different product lines. They were drowning in unmarketable, confusing hardware. A hardware manufacturer burning capital at that rate almost never survives. Yet Apple pulled off the most lucrative corporate comeback ever recorded. They did not execute this turnaround by suddenly inventing the iPhone. The rescue operation relied on a strict 4-part blueprint designed to overhaul the internal mechanics of the company. The first rule of that blueprint was simple: say no. When Steve Jobs returned as interim CEO in 1997, he fired the executive team and reduced the 350-item product lineup to 4 computers. The second rule established that design is functionality. Jobs enforced the idea that the physical shape of a device must serve how it operates, ensuring that complex engineering felt intuitive to an ordinary consumer. You can see this logic in the 1998 iMac. Jobs eliminated the standard beige casing and the obsolete floppy disk drive, replacing them with a colorful machine that connected to the internet right out of the box. 3 years later, the iPod applied the same philosophy to digital audio. Instead of a mess of buttons, the interface relied on a simple click wheel, allowing a user to scroll through 1,000 digital files with zero friction. By 2007, early smartphones were constrained by rigid physical keyboards that were clumsy for web browsing. The iPhone solved this hardware bottleneck by turning the entire surface of the phone into a multi-touch screen, a digital display that adapts its controls instantly based on the active software. By removing clutter and forcing the engineering to serve the interface, Apple produced hardware that people actively sought out. This shift transformed the personal computer from a specialized office tool into a consumer object that the rest of the industry had to emulate. This diagram shows the third rule in action: vertical integration. Most PC and smartphone makers purchase their internal chips from suppliers like Intel. Apple decided to design and own every single layer of their technology stack. Controlling the internal layers and the operating system requires massive upfront capital. But this closed-loop strategy ensures the code and the physical components are optimized for one another. The payoff arrived in 2020 with the M1, a custom semiconductor chip engineered by Apple, bypassing the traditional silicon industry. Because the M1 was tailored specifically for macOS, the new laptops delivered twice the processing speed and twice the battery life of prior Intel models. Competing manufacturers were instantly left selling older technology. Vertical integration built a structural moat around the company. Competitors cannot match Apple's processing efficiency because they do not control the underlying architecture of the devices they sell. But well-designed products cannot scale a business to $3 trillion on their own. The fourth rule is the invisible machine: rigorous logistical supremacy. When Tim Cook joined Apple as an operations executive, he inherited a manufacturing pipeline in chaos. He systematically dismantled the company's inefficient supply chain and rebuilt it. Cook targeted the sitting inventory first. In his first 2 years, he reduced the volume of unsold products sitting in warehouses from a 1-month supply down to 2 days. This logistical fix freed up billions of dollars in trapped capital. Later, as CEO, Cook executed a strategic pivot towards services, recurring offerings like the App Store, streaming on Apple Music, and storage on iCloud. He took a massive global user base and monetized them with digital subscriptions that operate at 75% profit margins. This highly disciplined operations engine is the mechanism that multiplied Apple's value from $350 billion to $3 trillion. It protects the entire company against the risk of relying on a single-hit hardware product. Today, that combined hardware and service infrastructure links the iPhone, Mac, and AirPods through background processes. Features like AirDrop work alongside iISage and iCloud to connect all of your Apple devices without any manual setup. This diagram illustrates ecosystem lock-in. Every time a user adds an Apple device to their life, the friction of their daily tasks decreases, but simultaneously, the switching cost goes up. Leaving this ecosystem means undertaking the labor of migrating passwords, photos, messages, and software licenses. For most users, the friction of rebuilding their digital life from scratch on Android or Windows is simply too high. The $1,300 investment in a California garage eventually produced an enclosed digital lifestyle, the invisible web that holds together the most valuable corporate empire in human history.